Hey there everyone, I'm Luke and today we're diving down the tube of tunes to review Batman Soul of the Dragon. Batman Soul of the Dragon is the latest DC animated original movie from Warner Home Media. And just in case you've not seen it yet, do not worry, this is going to be a non-spoiler review to help you make up your mind on whether or not this film is for you. So just to start off, I'm going to give you a quick summary of the film. So the film centres on Richard Dragon. That's right, the film doesn't actually centre on Batman himself, despite being the name of the movie. That's actually one of the things that Warner likes to do a lot with this line, is that they like to spotlight some of the more smaller characters that wouldn't normally get a film by putting them in a film that they promote as a Batman film. Now that might be disappointing to some, but I for one think it's a great way to introduce us to newer characters that we don't normally get to see. And so while yes, Batman is in the film, he definitely plays a more secondary role to that of Richard Dragon. So the film centres on Richard Dragon, who teams up with Batman, Lady Shiva and Bronze Tiger to take down the cult of Cobra. Why are they teaming up? Well, the film actually has a sort of secondary plot that's all told in flashback sequences, and that is set during the years that Bruce Wayne went travelling around the world training to become Batman. Now, while Batman isn't the main character in the primary present day storyline, Bruce Wayne is the focus of the flashback sequence. Now, during the flashbacks, we see Bruce Wayne travel to Nanda Parbat, where he trains alongside Richard Dragon, Lady Shiva and Bronze Tiger at the temple. There they learn different skills and hone their abilities. As the film unravels, it becomes clearer just exactly why they need to team up and why they have to stop this threat together. Now, of course, there's no spoilers in this review, so I'm not going into the details of how and why they do that, but do know that it's very well explained in the film. And the way they jump between the present and past storyline really helps tie the story together in a remarkable way. So what are my initial thoughts on the film? Wow, I mean, do not sleep on this film. This is probably one of the better films that I've seen from the DC animated line in recent years. I actually really enjoyed this film. It was incredibly different. It wasn't exactly what I expected it to be. Going in, I'd seen the trailer and it looked decent, but I wasn't overly hyped for it. But this film is just phenomenal. It feels truly original, and I'm not really familiar with this storyline. It isn't based on a pre-existing Batman storyline, although it does pull lots of elements from DC's Kung Fu comics, but I'm not very familiar with them, so to me it was an entirely new story. And while I'm familiar with certain characters like Richard Dragon, Lady Shiva, Bronze Tiger and the Cobra Cult, I've never quite seen them in this heroic capacity all working together. A lot of the time they can be portrayed as villains. If I look to previous portrayals in things like Arrow and the Suicide Squad, they are normally antagonistic roles. Like I said, it's not a huge Batman film, and while some people might find that disappointing because Batman is such a huge and popular character, I do think it's inspired that they were able to use this film as a jumping off point to launch these other characters who are truly incredible, and I think people will enjoy. They just need to give them a chance. And putting them in a Batman film really gives them a chance to shine. And like I said, Batman is still in the film. He's still one of the main characters, just not the main character. I would say he's the secondary character, and he's the main character of the flashback sequences, although of course that is all Bruce Wayne, not Batman. But I always think that a film or a series or anything that focuses more on Bruce Wayne, the character, and less on just the Batman persona, always makes for a stronger version of the character. And I think that definitely applies here. And while Batman is not the star of the film, he is absolutely brilliant here. Now, this film feels like a 70s martial arts kung fu movie. Everything about it, the entire aesthetic, the way it's sort of structured, the type of villains and the sequences you see within the film all just like breathes a 70s action movie, which works incredibly well for these characters. You know, they are characters literally from the Kung Fu comics, so they're in a Kung Fu movie. It's a different style of film that I'm not really that used to seeing. I've seen one or two, but I've not seen many. So it's very refreshing to see. And we've never seen it in a modern day animated movie before, so it definitely felt refreshing. Definitely feels incredibly different to all the previous animated films they've made. This is a Batman film like no other, and I incredibly loved the stylized take they took on it. I also want to talk about the voice actors of the film, because just like their characters, these voice actors could really kick some butt. Richard Dragon is played by Mark Dacascos, Lady Shiva is played by Kelly Hu, and Ben Turner Bronze Tiger is played by Michael J. White, the latter two of which have previously portrayed the characters before. Michael J. White, of course, played Bronze Tiger in the Arrowverse. He was quite a heavily recurring character on Arrow, starting out as a villain, then he became a member of the Suicide Squad, and then finally he was in prison alongside Oliver, and that was such a really great redemption arc for the character. He was one of my favourite recurring characters from Arrow, and I thought it was great that he was able to return and play the character here, and as always, he plays the character phenomenally. Kelly Hu, also a veteran of DC Comics. In fact, in Arrow, she played China White, but she has also voiced Cheshire in Young Justice. Some people may also know her as the voice of Stacey from Phineas and Ferb, but this is not the first time she's played Lady Shiva either, as she's also voiced the character previously in Batman Arkham Origins. And once again, she does a phenomenal job bringing the character to life here. But all three of these voice actors, including Mark Dacascos, are all martial arts fighters that do live action work in their own right, and as such they were able to bring a certain quality to their vocal performance, for instance in the fight scenes, that really helped you feel that the characters were fighting in those scenes and not just standing in a booth going ugh, ah, as they know the sounds that you are meant to make during a fight. And it's just an extra thing that adds a sense of realism to the film as you're watching it. And when you combine that with the storyboard artist giving each character their own distinct style of fighting, it really helps these characters come to life and feel real. And portraying Batman for the first time is David Guinsoli. He did a phenomenal job, and while he's not the main character of this film, that doesn't stop the version that they made of the character from being downright perfect. You know, lots of people have played Batman over the years, and, and there are a few standouts such as Kevin Conroy and Bruce Greenwood, and while this guy is new to the game, he should not be overlooked, and I definitely would welcome his return on any future Batman projects. I also want to talk about the look of the film, as well as obviously just looking aesthetically like a 70s film. The character designs, the art style was in the Bruce Timm style. That was famously seen in the DC animated universe in shows such as Superman the Animated Series, The New Batman Adventures, Batman Beyond, Justice League Unlimited, all those shows. It's that same art style, and Bruce Timm was back in this film as an executive producer. He was one of the ones that really pushed the 70s feel, as that's where when he grew up watching all these 70s action movies, and so that was the feel he wanted for this movie. I think it should be noted that although Bruce Timm was involved as a producer, he wasn't the character designer, it was just designed in his style. The character designs were done by this group of people, I'm not entirely sure who was in charge. Another thing I think it's important to note is that even though it is in this Bruce Timm style, it doesn't mean it is set within the DC animated universe, as you can feel that it's a very different version of these characters. This is not the Batman from Batman the Animated Series and Justice League. It just happens to be drawn in the same artistic style. This film doesn't just have a 70s feel, it's very clearly distinctly set in the 70s, and that of course just wouldn't line up with the timeline of the New Batman Adventures and the Justice League series. So it does exist in its own little universe and not part of the main DC animated universe, much like the recent films Batman and Harley Quinn and Justice League vs. the Fatal Five were both a return to the art style and to that universe. That being said, this story is set in its own pocket of the multiverse, and will we be seeing any more from it? What is the future of this new franchise? Well, of course, I did say we're not having any spoilers, but I will say the film certainly does leave room to carry on. It's sort of an open-ended conclusion. Like, don't get me wrong, the film definitely wraps up most of its thread and it has a very satisfying end, but at the same time, it definitely leaves room for them to pick it up again, and it ends in a sort of semi-cliffhanger. That, I mean, if they don't make a sequel, I would certainly be satisfied with the ending we got. The main story from this film has been wrapped up. But as I've said, I love this film so much that I definitely want to see more from these versions of the characters, and I definitely want to see where they were headed with that conclusion. Now, at the minute, there is no announcements for a sequel. It's possible they are already working on one. Maybe they're waiting to see the reception of this film, both what people think of it and how much money it actually makes. So the next film lined up in the DC animated original movie line is the Justice Society World War II. And if you buy this film as opposed to renting it, it does come with a sneak peek look at this film, and I've got to say it is incredibly exciting. Now, judging just from the art style, it seems that this might be set in the same continuity as Superman Man of Tomorrow. They definitely share an art style, which might lead you to believe it's set in the same universe. That, although like I said, that's not always the case, it wasn't with Soul of the Dragon. But if that is the case, it's quite possible that between Superman Man of Tomorrow and Justice Society World War II, we have a new DC animated movie universe in the aftermath of the Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, where the Flash reset the timeline. And the next films announced after that are The Batman The Long Halloween Parts 1 and 2, which are both coming out later this year. And although they are Batman films, they're certainly not going to be picking up where this film left off. They are most likely going to be quite literal adaptations of the comic book. Or who knows, maybe they're set in this new animated universe, much like Batman Hush and Death and Return of Superman was set in the last DC animated movie universe. But either way, it sounds like we've got some great movies coming out this year, and let's hope that they do eventually make a follow-up to this film. So yeah, just for my final thoughts, I really enjoyed this film. I highly recommend it. If you weren't sure whether or not to check it out, definitely go for it. If you just like action kung fu movie, this will be the one for you. You know, if you aren't someone that's normally big on superheroes, you might actually enjoy this film because it doesn't feel too superhero-y. It's more of a generic action film, a martial arts film, than it is a superhero film. Batman is in it, but Bruce Wayne has the stronger presence. It isn't Batman suiting up all the time, so I think it's very different. It's definitely worth checking it out. You know, whether you rent it or if you... But I think this is a film you might want to revisit a few times, so it's definitely worth owning it. Yeah, overall, guys, 2 big thumbs up from me. I definitely recommend this film, so what are you doing? Go watch it. Alright guys, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. It really helps out the channel and lets it get seen by more people. And if you want to see more videos like this, hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell to be notified the next time we dive down the tube of tunes. Alright everyone, cheers. Thanks for watching Tube of Tunes. If you want more from the channel, hit subscribe. If you want to keep up to date with what's going on, follow us on our socials. Hope you liked it. Cheers.